Hello, everyone. Happy Friday, and welcome to Collider Movie Talk. We know a little something about movies here and a whole lot about two guys, a girl, and a pizza place. What a show that was. On today's program, whole lot of news to get to. We are going to be talking about, hey, we got new set photos. Kind of. They're not official, but we looked at them from Captain Marvel, Brie Larson in costume, as well as Sally Hawkins or Frances McDormand. They might win Best Actress, but neither one is going to get Casey Affleck's autograph. Joining us today on the show, way over there on that panel side, Jay Washington's here. Look at him.
Yeah, I'm here. I have no idea what Two Guys, Girl, and the Pizza Place is. I'm still trying to figure out if I can get episodes to watch because I feel left out this discussion.
If I had just said Two Guys and a Girl, would that have rung a bell?
You still wouldn't have helped. That would sound like something else. Now, because next question. Keep going.
The next question is going to be for Clarke Wolfe. Clarke, I have a feeling you might know a little something about Two Guys, a Girl, or a pizza place.
I sure do. And Ryan Reynolds, Canada's own Ryan Reynolds, was also on a Nickelodeon show called 15, ladies and gentlemen.
There it is.
My love affair with Ryan Reynolds goes back a very long time.
That's deep. Most people are just hacks like me. They're like, oh yeah, Van Wilder was good. No, Clarke Wolfe goes all the way back.
I feel proud of Ryan Reynolds and his success because I knew even then.
You had an ownership.
I've always known. I've always known Ryan Reynolds.
And what movie did you watch around Christmas?
Just Friends.
There we are. Just Friends is a great movie, and it was based on the life, if I'm not mistaken, of Mr. John Rocha, who's also joining us today.
It's true. I have tried to microwave tinfoil all the time, aluminum foil all the time, causing plane crashes. Like, we were also talking about Saved by the Bell. Listen, you're either a Kelly Kapowski fan or a Jesse Spano fan, right? You date Jesse Spano. I think you marry Kelly Kapowski. I think that's how it works.
Why are you bringing Saved by the Bell lore into a Ryan Reynolds
because
conversation?
Tiffany Thiessen was in Two Guys, a Girl, in the Pizza Place. It's all connected.
Oh, wow.
For a minute.
Clarke!
If Clarke Wolfe can corroborate the story, then I will agree with it.
She was there, but not for the whole run, okay? Let's all get real for a second.
Well, on 15, Ryan wasn't there for the whole run either.
That's also true. That is also true.
I'm just saying.
Look,
I am so lost on this whole discussion. I have nothing to add. I'm just going to sit here with my
Whether you love Two Guys, a Girl, in a Pizza Place or Saved by the Bell, I'm so excited. Huh? There you go for our first story because it involves Black Panther and its box office predictability. The latest tracking has Black Panther making over $120 million. The actual estimate is saying $100 to $120 million. That would place the debut for the movie around Spider-Man Homecoming and Thor Ragnarok's opening weekend. The Hollywood Reporter, now this survey comes from a pre-release, and it's using the comparison to Doctor Strange's $85 million debut for the number. So a lot of research was put into this, but as Collider.com's own Dave Trumbore suggests, Doctor Strange was an origin movie, while Black Panther has been previously set up as it was in Civil War. So many believe Black Panther will far exceed even the $120 million opening weekend. You can count me amongst those people because I think that this movie is going to do upwards of $150 million. So you're going to have to add a few more Benjamins into T'Challa's hand in that graphic. I think this movie is going to crush. I think it's going to demolish for a number of different reasons. One, it doesn't have any competition it's opening up against, but more importantly, it's not just an MCU movie. It's not just an exciting new property that we're excited about. This movie has a primarily black cast, and it's opening in the middle of Black History Month. This is such an important cultural event on top of the fact that it is associated with the biggest franchise running right now, that being the Marvel Cinematic Universe. All of the tea leaves are pointing towards Black Panther exceeding expectations, and this would not be the first time we've seen that in recent history. Jurassic World had some cute tracking numbers. It ended up doing over $200 million. Same with the Fast and Furious movies. Same with Wonder Woman. There's a lot of movies where they get conservative tracking estimates, even if we're excited about that number. And I think $120 million is a great number for Black Panther to hit. I would not be disappointed if it hit that number. I just think it's going way beyond that. Clarke Wolfe, first time you and I have been able to talk about this on camera a little bit. Do you buy into the tracking numbers now? Do you think that the technology, the research has caught up with the modern day moviegoer?
I don't know. I mean, I think like you just named off a handful of films that the tracking was definitely off on, and I think the 120 million is conservative. I think that this is going to be huge. I think this is going to blow the doors off of 2018, and And Jay and I were talking earlier about the fact that, you know, I don't understand why, and I'm sure you can talk about it a little bit more, I don't understand why Hollywood is shocked every time a movie that is made for the African-American audience makes a ton of money. The African-American audience wants to see themselves represented on screen, and they show up. They show up. And so it's like, I don't understand why this is rocket science. They prove it time and time again. So I think it's going to be huge.
Jay, are we not accounting for something that we should, that maybe we haven't seen with tracking numbers?
Absolutely. You're not accounting for African-American dollars. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. They never count black people to come out and spend money in droves. Holiday shopping, anything that's big where it's going to require concerts, things of the sorts. And a movie like this, they're like, oh, and they're not going to really go see it. Yes, we are. We've been talking about it. I've always said to people that this is a movie that transcends generations in the African-American community. I know elders, older black men and women who have never seen not a single comic book movie who are making sure they go to see this one, okay? They are making sure of it. And also, before I finish, why we got T'Challa looking like a No Limit album cover? Like this is 1998.
You talk to Ray Orr about that.
Like this, they got T'Challa looking like a No Limit cover. Like he make him say, but
Master P got something to say here.
But it's the truth though, that Hollywood does not account for it. Hollywood figures, oh, it's just another comic book movie. It'll do the 100 million it normally does. This will crack 150 at the bare minimum.
You think the bare minimum is going 150?
Bare minimum.
This is what happens sometimes with comic book movies, that we get so excited about a movie coming out and we say, oh, it's going to do this and this and this. And then when it doesn't hit that number, it feels disappointing. But it would not be disappointing for Black Panther if it hit 110, $120 million. Rocha, I think the gold standard for this thing that we need to get over is $100 million. I think that's the one where it proves that this is a bona fide hit, that this is a movie that everybody wanted to see. I just think it's going to do a lot better than that, because the one thing I think that tracking has a real problem accounting for is repeat viewings. I think it measures how excited everybody is to go see it opening weekend. But I know a lot of people, and you probably count me amongst them, is we're going to see this movie more than once the weekend that it comes out, which is that all-important opening weekend number. 150 million, 120 million. How do you feel?
Yeah, absolutely. Over 150. Over 150. I think we're talking Guardians of the Galaxy 2 area, 167, maybe even pushing towards Batman vs. Superman, 166. There's a possibility here. Yeah, people, oh, it's an origin movie, blah, blah, blah. Everything has been set up through the Marvel movies, and everything that's come out trailer-wise, promotion-wise, costume-wise, casting-wise, everything about it gets people excited about it. It's coming from the right place. It goes to Africa, so you're with black people, with African Americans, you're going back to the motherland. You're going back to this and you're treating it well, but you have Michael B. Jordan come out as an American, so you're crossing over both sides. So there's so much appeal here. Plus you've got Angela Bassett, Forrest Whitaker. So like Jay was saying, multi-generational. Absolutely. They're going to be grandfathers there with their grandchildren, maybe great-grandchildren. Who knows? It'll be there, and they'll go multiple times to see themselves represented. Variety did a fantastic article about African-American viewership, and it doubled in 2016. Doubled. Why? Because they were more represented in films that year than they had been in the previous 10. And that tells you something. People will come out. Look at Tyler Perry, his entire career is based on hitting the market correctly and people coming multiple times to see those films because they appeal to them. And I think this is going to be another situation as well. So many people are going to come and they're going to get, and we don't know how strong Black Panther is in the African-American community. Maybe people for generations have been reading these comic books and understand and finally get to see representation. And I think the correlation here is Wonder Woman. So many people kind of underestimated what Wonder Woman was going to do. It blew the doors off. Women came in droves. Men came in droves for multiple screenings. What you said, Mark, multiple times. I think black people will come multiple times. I think everybody's going to come multiple times to see this movie because we're not in that place where it's just a black superhero.
Yeah,
there's more
absolutely.
here. Yeah.
And then this will break that stigma of that black people will just bootleg a movie. This is a film because we know of its importance.
Yeah.
This is the first major blockbuster black superhero film. I have to keep telling people that because people bring up, well, what about Blade? Blade was not put up on a high level like this is.
Blade still did incredible for what it was.
It did incredible for what it was.
And Blade was more leaning on Wesley Snipes being an action star,
in
my
more than
opinion,
anything else.
When the movie came out, I mean, this is not Meteor Man, okay? This is not Blank Man. This is something totally different that we've never seen before.
Exactly. And so people will say that, oh, black people will just download it illegally and bootleg it. Not in this case. Not in this case. And I hate to say it for certain films, but we are going to show that, hey, we want that. Like you said, we want that representation. How can we prove we want more of that representation? Spending our dollars and showing you we put our money where our mouth is. Tyler Perry. People may talk about Tyler Perry and downgrade what he does, but he has his market who comes out in droves to see him. He has built his own production studio. Oprah has done the same thing with the OWN network, and you see all the different shows she has produced. She's brought in a lot of new talent out of those shows, as well as Tyler Perry. This brings an established cast of Academy Award winners, nominees, Golden Globe winners, nominees, and actors at their peak. And again, like you said, a company that's at its peak. You can't fail.
Is Black Panther going to be immune to criticism, you think, regardless of how critics feel about it? Because like a movie like Wonder Woman, every so often you have movies come out, and Wonder Woman had a great opening weekend, but that movie continued to make money in its subsequent opening weekends because critics said it was a good movie. Most people really liked it. Some people had things that they were not a fan of in the movie, but it kept making money because audiences were hearing about this and they wanted to go out and see it. The same thing could be said for Jurassic World, where there might have been a critical backlash in week 2 or 3. Same thing could be said for The Last Jedi, where the other way is true, where I think that the criticism did hurt The Last Jedi's box office receipts. But Clarke, do you think that Black Panther is going to be one of those rare movies where whatever critics say about it, whether they love it or they're not a huge fan of it, they say, oh, this isn't the best MCU movie of all time, people are still going to want to go see it week after week after week?
Yeah, I do, because there's a group of people who has not seen themselves in this way on screen ever. And so, yeah, I would show up with Wonder Woman, because I haven't seen Black Panther yet, so I can't speak to the quality of my take on the quality of the movie. But with Wonder Woman, I think Wonder Woman was a great movie. And so I think that in addition to the fact that a group of women or a group of people were seeing themselves represented on screen in a way that they had never been before, and that would encourage them to keep going, it was also a great film. And I think with Black Panther, yeah, I mean, I can't imagine that no matter if the movie is great or good or not good or whatever. I mean, yeah, it is a truly this is an event. This is a big cultural event, and so that cannot be discounted.
Anybody bought tickets yet?
Yeah, we have. There's 46 of us going for that.
I bought $200 worth of tickets just to make sure I added to the box office numbers.
You bought $200 worth of tickets.
Well, I took a payday loan out. Now, however, the interest that comes back is going to be worth it to know that my 200 went to that 150 million. I know it don't sound like good math, but it does.
So you're going to hang like a plaque of $150 million in your house, like above your fireplace, and be like, I did that.
I helped with that.
Well, but also, just real fast, like I just personally, when I left Civil War, Black Panther was the thing I was most excited about.
Yeah.
That was the character. I was more excited about Spider-Man, like we talked about yesterday, but like Black Panther was the thing I was most excited about.
Yeah, and the way that Civil War left off with that scene,
the ending in Wakanda,
it was really cool. With you had T'Challa and they're talking, and Captain America's there, and then the guy who Bucky, who I think should be put to permanent sleep. They have him in like the deep crowd shape. Get rid of him. He's a loose cannon. You can't trust that guy.
Well, also, Mark, there's so much involved here that's connected to the overall story of Infinity War that people are going to come to as well. Yes, it's an event. Black people are going to come. A lot of people are going to come multiple times. But also you're going to get those people who want to continue the storyline, want to find out where is the Soul Stone? Is it in Wakanda? What's going to happen? Forrest Whitaker in an interview said we're going to outer space. Is Thanos going to show up? So there's a lot involved here. Aside from Black Panther, it's also connected to the overall MCU stuff leading us into Infinity War, which is only a few months away. So people want to come see to get that information. Maybe they won't go multiple times, but they'll at least go once to see it, and they maybe would not have gone otherwise.
I can tell you this right now. I don't have 46 friends. I do not know 46. I do not have 46
Go on your Facebook.
I probably don't have
46
fans that would want to show up and go see a movie. Like I don't want to see a movie with 46 people. It's got to be like you just got married. You got to go glad hand everybody after. Hey, thanks for coming.
No, you
thanks
don't.
No,
really
you don't.
No, you don't.
It's my crew, dog. We don't have to glad hand everybody.
46 people. Look, you know why you here. Thank you for coming out. God bless you. Good night.
Right. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it the bar afterwards.
Right.
I don't know that I've met 46 people in my entire life. We're going to move on to our next story. That involves Charlie Kaufman, ladies and gentlemen, he is making the jump to Netflix. Charlie Kaufman, who you probably know from a number of different films of late, the writer of films like Being John Malkovich adaptation and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Also, the director of Synecdoche, New York, will write and direct a film adaptation of the Ian Reid novel I'm Thinking of Ending Things. This is all according to our source at Variety. The story revolves around a couple who go on a road trip but make an unexpected detour. No word on when production will begin or when we can expect a release date. John Rocha, hear the news of Charlie Kaufman, who I'm sure you're a fan of his works in the past writing / directing. What do you think of this maneuver?
I think it's a great sign. He does a great job adapting these things. He did it for Adaptation, the film. He did that for, I think it was The White Orchid, or I think it was the novel that was called, or something like that, or The Orchid Thief, rather. And then he did Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. People forget that movie that Clooney did with Sam Rockwell and Drew Barrymore, which is really good. So his adapting skills are very well known in the Hollywood community. So great, he's doing this. The story's interesting. It's the girlfriend that wants to kill herself. So what does he leaves her abandoned? What does that look? So I'm interested to see what the story is. And the story already won a number of awards. So people there's a certain amount of an audience there that wants to see this adapted. And Charlie Kaufman's great. Adam Elisa came out and really split audiences. A lot of people loved it. A lot of people thought it was the worst piece of crap they'd ever seen. So he can be more divisive than you think. Eternal Sunshine was a great calling card. Adaptation's a great calling card. But he's been kind of hit or miss since with Synecdoche, New York, and Adam Elisa. It hasn't been as positive since the early 2000s. So maybe this is a way to come back to it a little bit more. And it's Netflix, so he's going to have a little more leeway to play.
Which is what I was going to ask you about. Is Netflix the right move? Is this the right move on their part? Because this is not a huge property. Like something like Bright, you could imagine a movie like Bright where it's got Will Smith and it's got this interesting storyline and David Ayer's a director. That could have opened big in theaters, potentially. This movie would not. This would not have a huge theatrical opening. So is this the kind of movie you think Netflix should be going for, or should they continue to take swings with bigger blockbusters?
I think the occasional swing for the blockbuster is fine, but I think this is their bread and butter. I think people want to sit home. And you don't need to see this in a big theater film like this. You see this at home on your television with your significant other or with your family, whatever you want to do, and watch it and enjoy it.
With your 46 friends?
Yeah, well, no. Maybe if I get a house, but no. I mean, you can sit and enjoy these kind of smaller films and more interesting character study films at home on Netflix. I think it works better on Netflix.
Clarke, is this Netflix's wheelhouse, do you think? Just having smaller movies be on their streaming service available as opposed to having too many movies that are huge blockbusters that they sunk a ton of money into?
This one is a real thinker to me because honestly, I think, I believe wholeheartedly that Netflix does not do anything that their analytics do not tell them they should do. I mean, it's great that they give creators more freedom and more leeway to be creators, but at the same time, those green lights aren't coming in unless there are numbers saying, okay, your audience is going to like this. The other thing that I think about, so I'm thinking, okay, maybe are they trying to attract new audience that maybe don't have Netflix already, but could potentially be Charlie Kaufman fans? Maybe. But on the other hand, I think about what this says for small movies. And is, at the end of the day, does this mean that small movies are not going to get theatrical releases? Is this the way of the future? Whether these small films are going to go to Prime or they're going to go to Netflix. I mean, it's really, really interesting.
Is that a scary dystopian future you think you're looking at, or is that actually something positive for filmmakers and creators in general, that you may not have that big theatrical release, but with Rocha's 46 friends going to see it, but you could have your own little billboard on a streaming service where you turn on Netflix. That's how most people watch that. That's how I watch Netflix. I turn it on with every intention of watching either Black Mirror or Family Guy, but I see something else and I'm like, oh, I should check that out. I haven't heard of this prior. That could be what they're going for with the Charlie Kaufman movie.
I think you're right. I do. I think I just, I think there are some movies where I initially would think I do not need to see this in a theater. And then if I happen to see it in a theater, I think to myself, I'm really glad I saw this in a theater. Foxcatcher is an example that comes to mind. That's a beautiful, small movie. And so I was really glad I saw it on the big screen. So I don't know. I mean, you know, we'll see. We'll see how it all goes.
I think a majority of the Oscar-nominated films you wouldn't need to have seen in a theater. Call Me by Your Name, I, Tonya. I mean, it's not Best Picture, but it's one of those things in contention. You wouldn't have need to see it in the theaters. There's a number of smaller films that you don't. And I think MoviePass hits that as well. That whole thing was created to get people into theaters so they can spend money on refreshments, not necessarily tickets, but you get exposed to more independent films. It's for the smaller theaters to stay alive, and so Netflix does that as well. But I think we're going towards that trend where we sit at home because the technology has increased. It's gotten cheaper. TVs are gotten bigger, but cheaper. The sound bars are cheaper. Everything is cheaper, so you can sit at home and watch.
Jay, you actually prefer this model as far as a movie like this, where you may not have to rush out to a theater and see it, where now you don't have to.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the beautiful thing about streaming services. It's on demand. You don't have to rush and go and say, oh, it's theatrical run, it's coming to an end. Let me hurry up and rush to get to the theater and plug it in my schedule. Your schedule is when you're at home or when you're on the go because of the beauty of portable devices, our cell phones, our laptops, things like that. So yeah, if you want to see a movie like this that you're not even familiar with, like you said, just like, what is this? I'm at home. Now you're watching it. Now you're engaged. And while you're doing that, after you're done with that, Netflix will give you a suggestion. Check out this film. Check out that film. And it's something in the same parameter. So what it does is it opens up to more films you can see like that. So yeah, I'm 100% with it.
Yeah, Clarke wins the point of the day so far because she referenced that Netflix has analytics that they really trust, right? So think about this. Charlie Kaufman is writing and directing a new movie that's going to be on Netflix. That's where it's going to land first, right? Charlie Kaufman is also the writer responsible for movies that weren't necessarily box office juggernauts, but they're cult favorites, like it being John Malkovich or an adaptation or Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. You make all of those available on Netflix, too, the same weekend. So you click on that. Now you're getting people to watch your streaming service for 8 hours, for 10 hours, instead of just the 2 hours for the new movie. Maybe that's something. I just thought of that too. So maybe I should Netflix. You guys have any job openings? How about this guy? No, I don't need to work there. Just maybe a comedy special. Okay, we'll talk later. Anyway, we're going to move on to our first agree or disagree. This is the part of the show where I will present a topic to somebody on the panel. They'll either agree or disagree, and then fist and fur will start flying. The first one is an unofficial set photo. Boy, do we love unofficial set photos. Well, we got to talk about it. Brie Larson was photographed, whether she knew it or not, in one appears to be one of the new Captain Marvel outfits. It's directed by Half Nelson directors Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck, and it's going to be one of the first prequel stories from the MCU. The movie takes place in the 1990s, and it will reveal the Larson character's origin. Samuel L. Jackson is also co-starring as Nick Fury. Now, Captain Marvel opens on March 18th, 2019. Clarke Wolfe. This is one of those times when I'm not a huge fan of unofficial set photos. I don't like when they leak, but they leak, and now we see her in a costume, and we have to talk about it. Your feelings on the set photos?
Well, here's the thing. I am not super familiar with the comic book legacy of Captain Marvel because I was reading online a lot of reactions saying, oh, this is clearly this suit, or does this indicate that this is going to lead into this thing? And I can't speak to that, but I do think she looks very cool. Somebody on Twitter mentioned that she has the Rachel. Her hair is the Rachel, which I thought was amazing and hilarious and a great observation because it is the 90s.
It's the right time frame, yeah.
But no, I mean, I think she looks great. I actually really like this. I like the suit. I don't understand why people don't like the suit. Maybe they have some information comic book wise that I don't, but just from this, I like it.
Yeah, I was going to tell you, like, I'm sure you read a lot online about like what the suit means, and I'll tell you this, I didn't write any of those articles. I have no idea what this suit means, what it looks like. It's a cool looking suit. It looks powerful. She looks like she can kick a lot of ass. I didn't notice the Rachel haircut either, but it's impressive that Clarke picked up on that. That's something I wouldn't bet Jay Washington would have picked up on, but you might have some insight into the suit that we don't.
I wouldn't have picked up on the Rachel hair, even though I've been watching Friends when it comes on because nothing else is on television. But
it's on Netflix now.
Oh, that you watch, but not Two Girls in a Pizza Place.
Hey, man, I never heard of it.
Okay.
So the suit is actually homage to the original Captain Marvel, who was Marvel, who was Jude Law's character in the film. Now, Marvel wore a suit that was white greenish in the comic books. So this is an ode to it. This could be her first suit. Now, everybody's wondering, when did she get the red, blue, and gold? This could become the red, blue, and gold, or she could get a brand new suit altogether. So this is just probably a first-generation suit. When she first became Captain Marvel, when she first got her powers and her abilities, and she's learning how to use them.
I see what you're saying. So this is like the starter. So this is like Deion Sanders when he played for the Falcons. So this is not when he graduated, actually started winning championships when he was playing with the 49ers and the Cowboys. Does that make sense?
Yes, or better yet, for those who might not be too familiar, let's do Iron Man. When he was in the cave in the first one, the big Iron Maiden suit he made, the big one he made, that was a prototype in comparison to the gold and red. You see what I'm saying? It was one generation and the second. Now, granted, he's made almost 7,000 other suits, but he had the first one. And so that's what this may be, the first suit. But it's playing homage to the comic books. It's staying as canon as it can be right now for what we see. We don't know anything else. Like you said, 90s, Samuel L. Jackson with 2 eyes, which is the greatest thing ever.
We don't know anything else right now, but we can suspect that this photo was unofficial, or do you think that it was actually somewhat official?
I'm thinking official, and I'm going to tell you why. It is whoever's standing there taking pictures these aren't blurry by any means. You know, she might have turned and was moving and posing, but this is somebody who was on set with the camera filming. Granted, that could have been an iPhone because it's a pretty clear picture.
iPhones do very well. You see those billboards around town where, like, this is shot
with
on an iPhone 7? I'm like, holy crap.
But, you know, I have a Galaxy Note. We're going to stay with Samsung. But no. But I believe these photos were leaked. You know, like the Deadpool original teaser trailer years ago, leaked.
It gets a lot of good buzz going the MCU's way if this is indeed. You agree with Jay's point? I know you're not one to shy away from conspiracy theories when it comes to Hollywood, Rocha.
Yes.
So do you think that is the case here? Are these set photos actually leaked?
Yes, on purpose. I agree with you. I think on purpose because we've been seeing photos coming piece by piece from her more and more lately, from her training, from being on the Nellis Air Force Base. So they're building up the hype for Captain Marvel, and it makes sense. You know, I'm not the biggest fan of the suit at this point. I get the origins. I like that the star is there, so it's a bit of a mix between her what her suit's going to be and Marvel's suit. So maybe this is a hand-me-down type of suit. I don't know. I want it to be stronger and tighter and everything like that. Just look more badass. This looks a little more loose and comfortable.
This don't look badass to you?
No, and I get it. That's what I said. It doesn't look badass, and so it's like it's loose and more comfortable. She can move and fight and do whatever. So it makes sense, the suit, but I think by the end we'll see a different kind of suit at the end of the movie. So this may be the beginning after the Kree scroll, everything has happened, you know, with Marvel. Maybe he's handed it down to her with Jude Law, and then we see her using it, fighting, and then she goes, you know what? I need to make some changes and make this suit work for me. And then as it goes on, she'll understand and what works for her, and then she'll change the suit. So it's a good first suit to see. It gets you excited for the film. Plus the way she's really, you know, badass, the way she's standing it, like, you know, bring it. Come at me. And I love that. And the star in the middle is really what sells it for me because it lets you know that she is going to become the Captain Marvel that we've seen in the comic books.
Clarke, you agree with that assessment of the suit?
Well, actually, I just wanted to add that I like that it's a bulkier fit because when I first saw these pictures, I was like, this is kind of cool that she's not in like the Black Widow super tight, like, you know, skin tight. Like I kind of was like, yeah, she looks like a fighter. Like she looks big. And I kind of actively noticed that she didn't look compact, and I kind of liked that.
And I think shoulder pads are really in the 90s, so I think that, look, if you're going after, it doesn't matter if it's an alien race, if it's Kree, whoever it is, it's like, you have to have a suit that is going to have protection, that is going to have padding, this is like, you're not riding motorcycles here, which you should be protected there too. This is next level kind of stuff, okay? I still don't know why Hawkeye shows up to a fight with aliens with a bow and arrow. This is the suit you want to show up to if you're fighting aliens, Jay.
Don't you disrespect the bow and arrow, okay?
I'm sorry. It's got a lot of cool like laser things
As a
on
black
it.
man in the hood, which I always go to, I bought a bow and arrow. Yes, I looked a little bit weird.
You never bought a bow and arrow.
I'm so confused about what you think about this. Like, people don't look over the hood and no, there's no bow and arrows here, dog.
Ain't no 79 the Winchester on the south side of Chicago. Ain't nobody got no bow and arrow.
Well, it's like white people listen to rap music. Black people can listen to heavy metal music.
This is true. I'm not saying we can't listen to heavy metal music, but a black dude with a bow and arrow, they're like, yo, this Negro is weird.
I think anybody with a bow and arrow in a major city is probably a little suspect.
That's fair.
But that's fair. But after this, But after the TV show Arrow, interest in archery went up very high. Yeah. And people of all races, all genres, and neighborhoods were buying bow and arrows.
Also, this thing's got a bit of a Power Rangers look to it. I'm just not 100% sold on it.
Do you want the comic books, the like?
Well, eventually, this is an origin story.
No, but do you want the tight one, like the comic book look, or because they've augmented all of the suits to look, you know, different ways. It doesn't have to be the skin tight feel.
Yeah, I know. I'm of two minds of this because Clarke brings up a good point. Like, women are also in comics. Obviously, they're drawn to be male fantasies, right? Power Girl. Number one on that list. Yes. Like that is not in any way conducive to anything you're doing, right? So, but we've seen Thor, you know, without it, he's got his muscles, all those kinds of things. we see some of the other people, like Black Panther's suit, it is skin tight. It's still powerful, but it's skin tight. So I'm of two minds of it. I think it has to look sexy and cool, both male and female, but I think it also has to look believable that you can fight in it. And I think like I've been kind of getting interested in this whole idea of a lot of my female friends who write talk about the boob armor stuff. Do you know what I'm saying? Like this, like nobody has boob armor. It does not really help you. And it really came out with Justice League, how some of them had this boob armor, but it doesn't really, it's only for the male gaze. It actually is not good for the fighting, which is why they like how Phasma is just straight down. There's no boob armor on Phasma. So I like what we're seeing here. It's a looser thing, but it has a little bit of a Power Rangers feel to it. So eventually I think it'll change and be stronger and be more powerful. It doesn't have to be skin tight, but I think it'll be a little more badass.
I think there'll be suits that everybody will reference to Power Rangers because it's the quickest and easiest thing. But how do you think what do you think the Power Rangers developed from? Granted, they are Japanese origins, but they were superheroes in a sense. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So it can go both ways, but also to use something like this, it's different, and it still keeps her identity. The star number one.
Yes,
the
absolutely.
star number one. She can fight in that, and she's an Air Force pilot. Let her be a badass in that suit, and let's see what the finished product looks like.
Yeah. Well, you know, you wake up on a Friday. You don't know if you're going to get a good hashtag, but boob armor seems to be pretty good for this Friday.
This is what they said. This is what they said, not mine.
Just anybody who does happen to live in the hood, if you want to have a bow and arrow, you could be known as Robin Hood. Pretty good origin story. There we are. We're going to move on to our next agree or disagree. Casey Affleck, according to Deadline, has withdrawn from being the presenter for the Best Actress award at the Oscars. According to the trade, Affleck notified the Academy of his decision, claiming he did not want to be a distraction from the focus that should be on the performances of the actresses, and that is why he made the preemptive move. Affleck won the Best Actor Oscar last year for his performance in Manchester by the Sea, and the tradition is for the Best Actor winner to present the Best Actress trophy, while the Best Actress presents the Best Actor. The Oscars will air on Sunday, March 4th. So when I first read this story yesterday, I was like, well, what idiot gave him then I was like, oh yeah, the person who won last year always does it. So Casey Affleck just saying, I don't want to be a distraction. Clarke, do you see this as a good thing for the Academy Awards, and what does this mean for Casey Affleck's future in presenting awards to people?
I think I'll keep it short and sweet. I think this is a wise move, and I think he should not do this. So I think good job, Casey Affleck. You made the right decision for once.
He made the right decision. In recent memory, Casey Affleck has made the right decision. I agree with Clarke. I think that this is a nice preemptive move. I don't know if he did it begrudgingly or he didn't make a statement. His reps made the statement, but it was Affleck that said, I'm going to take my personality and my whatever baggage I bring to this, I'm going to be away from the award ceremony because I don't want it to be a distraction. So that's a nice thing, Rocha, if it was Casey Affleck that made the first call to the Academy. I know how you feel about the Academy and the things that go on there behind closed doors. Is that the way it went down?
No, I'm sure the Academy reached out to his reps and said, listen, we'd like to not have this situation here. We don't want anything to distract from this prestigious event. Do you mind if Casey steps back? And I'm sure they gave him the option to do the right thing. That's what you do. You leave him the gun and let him kill himself. That's how you do. You let him walk out the room so you're not a witness to it. That's that kind of thing. You saw it in Godfather 2.
What kind of stuff were you doing on the weekend?
You saw it on Godfather 2, right? Pentangeli, he left Pentangeli alone to do what he needed to do before he could testify against Michael Corleone. That's how it works. So you give him the option to step up to do the right thing, and he did the right thing, step away. He didn't come out with his reps came out with a statement, so it makes sense. He did reek of a bit of trying to be the noble guy, which I didn't like when he's like, I don't want to be a distraction. Oh, you know what you did.
But it could also reek of somewhat of an admission of guilt. I mean, is that the way that you read into this, Jay? Because he was accused by two women of inappropriate behavior and sexual misconduct on the set of a 2010 movie, the crazy one he did with Joaquin Phoenix. So do you take this as an admission of guilt, or is this is just something that, because this is in the air, I just don't want to be a distraction?
Let's do both. It's because it's in the air, and call it a guilty conscience. Because when he was nominated last year, everybody was like, "Ooh."
That's initially when those reports came out. Right? Everybody, both of those cases were settled out of court.
Right, but it came back up. And then when he won, you saw the entire audience's response to it. They were like, "No, this shouldn't be happening." And so for him to sit there and pull back, I don't think it was him saying, "Oh, I just don't want to distract." You know what you've been accused of, what you potentially have done. Because we don't know. We just know what we've heard, and of course, it's settled out of court. And I'm not saying anyone is lying or whatever the case, but we don't know fully. But he knows what he did. And so for him to say, I don't want to be a distraction, You know what's going to happen because now, again, James Franco, completely off the ballot. Completely off the ballot.
Conspiracy.
I wouldn't say so much a conspiracy. I would say that it's rightfully so that he's off the ballot.
Yeah.
You know, so that doesn't make it a conspiracy, though. With Casey Affleck not presenting the Best Actress award, I think if he was presenting any other award, he'd have stayed on. I guarantee you.
It's happened before where, although it is tradition that the best actor from the previous year gives the best actress and vice versa, it's happened a few times in history, but this is definitely notable, and this is the reason why Casey Affleck declined to do it. I would disagree with Jay. I don't think that, I think that he would probably not present any award. I think if he was doing best makeup, or if he was the guy that had to come out and be like, at a separate ceremony 3 weeks ago, we had the Science and Technical Award. Even if he had to do that, I don't think that he would have showed up. I think that this movement is so strong right now. Time's Up and Me Too are going to be so prevalent at the Oscars. But my question is this not going to be the case next year? Like, are we going to be like, all right, everybody, we're good, and now we can have presenters now?
How about if Gary Oldman wins?
Yeah.
We're right back into this situation again.
a great point.
I've been seeing on the internet like people saying that there are hit pieces out on Gary Oldman, which I find hilarious because reading somebody's words back to them is not a hit piece. But yeah, if Gary Oldman wins, we're in this situation all over.
And this is the broader question, Clarke, too. I mean, this idea of who are we going to check you at the door that you can't even attend the ceremony? That's the thing, right? I'm sure we're not going to see Woody, and I wonder if we're going to see James at all. And Allison Brie, Dave Franco, that was a really uncomfortable situation that they had at the Golden Globe. So what is that about? They asked Allison at the SAG Awards on the red carpet about the situation with James and Dave, and she was very political about it because sometimes this is going to hit closer to home. The farther this net goes out, it's going to start hitting closer to some of these female actresses who've been very vocal about this Me Too movement. What are their responses going to be? We saw what happened with Lena Dunham, where she tried to protect that writer, and everybody clapped back at her for that stuff. So this thing is a lot more complex. It's going to grow. So to me, Mark, I don't think we're done in any way, shape, or form. And I don't think next year we're just going to brush it aside. This is a powerful movement. It is a sea change. And because people are on board with this now, it's just time.
I don't think
I think it's going to be
anywhere
sweeping.
close to being finished. I don't think it should be anywhere close to being finished. I think there's a lot more names that should come out. I think there's a lot of things that will come out. However, I will also say this, is that because this conversation really started to pick up steam towards the end of 2017, you see how quickly things can escalate and things can snowball, and it turns into this big political statement that we're able to make at award shows. So we're going to have a whole off season, if you will, to let everything settle and let everything talk about it. And other names are going to come out and other stories are going to be released. But what's the conversation going to be around this time next year? It's interesting, but it's very unpredictable as well. What is going to be the word of the day? What is going to be the movement? Is it still going to be Time's Up, Me Too? Is that conversation going to change? Is there going to be a culture shift? We can't predict these kind of things, Clarke and Jay, but I think that for this year and for this ceremony, I think that this is the right thing to do. I'm not applauding Casey Affleck. I'm applauding the Academy more than anybody else. For whoever has initiated the conversation, this was the right decision to arrive at.
I agree.
All right, then we're going to move on to a happier story. Hans Zimmer's conducting a movie, everybody. Woo! All right, button up your jackets and listen up because X-Men Dark Phoenix has a conductor, and it's one of the better ones you've ever heard. Hans Zimmer has been out of the superhero movie game for a few years now, but it appears he's ready to come out of quote-unquote retirement. He will be scoring X-Men Dark Phoenix. Collider had originally heard rumblings that Zimmer might be scoring the 20th Century Fox superhero film, with co-star Evan Peters recently confirming the news while appearing on Josh Horwitz's podcast, Happy, Sad, Confused, at Sundance. Peters spilled the beans by saying, the set was actually very tame. Simon directed this one and came in very prepared, very professional. He was referring, of course, to Simon Kinberg. It was a different energy on set, and everything got done like clockwork. It was very seamless. Everybody was a little bit more level-headed, so it was a very pleasurable, light experience. I think the film is going to be incredible. Hans Zimmer's scoring it. I don't know if I was supposed to say that or not. It doesn't really matter. The cat's out of the bag. Happy to hear that Hans Zimmer is scoring it. And I also read into these comments a little bit, Jay, by this isn't just Evan Peters saying how nice and calm and like clockwork the set ran. There's a lot of people from X-Men Dark Phoenix saying how great Simon Kinberg, first-time director on a big movie like this, has run his set, as opposed to the previous guy, Bryan Singer, who we know is mired in a lot of controversy as well. So this set tells me as much about Simon Kinberg's directing and being a steady captain to a very unruly ship as much as it does an announcement that Hans Zimmer is going to be doing the score.
Well, it's good to have him back. Again, he was supposed to do Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, as well as did Justice League at first. And then they brought in Junkie XL to do both. So for him to be back in the superhero genre is cool. I think, again, to what you're saying, yeah, you tell it's a completely different mood shift not having Bryan Singer on set anymore, which it should have been happened, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. But it's a completely different mood shift. Now, hopefully, it's a movie shift because the X-Men movies within themselves in this new generation, the first two were great. X-Men Apocalypse was horrible. And now we're worried about the Dark Phoenix because we know what they did in X-Men The Last Stand, trying to do this Phoenix saga again. So that's the worry more so than anything. Yeah, you can have a great score, but if the movie is horrible, that's the issue too. Let's just be honest. Everybody's gonna be like, oh, Hans Zimmer, he made a great score. Yeah, but the movie could have been thrown in a dumpster fire.
Somebody who listens to the Transformers score, the Transformers score a lot in his car is Christian Harloff. I know he doesn't like the Transformers movies at all. So sorry, I forgot you were sitting there for a minute. But sure. Hans Zimmer doing the score, it doesn't mean the movie's going to be great. But hearing these comments, it seems like everybody at least had a good time making it, which is a step in the right direction, right, Rocha?
I guess, yeah, sure. It's a step in the right direction. We'll see what happens. I'm not completely sold on Sophie as Dark Phoenix, so we'll see what happens. I'm coming out of Apocalypse. I was a little. Obviously, like Jay said, this is a terrible movie. I wasn't excited. So you talk about another X-Men movie. We'll see what happens. I hope it's great. Kimberg has brought in some of Nolan's people in this, so that may have something to do with it. Zimmer did the score for Man of Steel, which Nolan produced with Zack Snyder. So to me, there's possibilities here that it'll work out. And what you feel about a Man of Steel is irrelevant. Zimmer score is incredible. And so for him to come back and do this, I think what we're seeing, all the right moves, once again, are being made by everybody involved with this production. People talk about how much they're having a better time on set. It's great. Zimmer coming in is another step forward in the right direction. So I think everything points to it being a good movie and people enjoy and people having a good end product because they do want to keep this franchise going. And you've cast all these incredible new young actors. Even Evan Peters, who was a bit too quick on the quick server talking on revealing this thing, it still works. And everyone's been fun and interesting. So we'll see how they do stepping up now to be the main focus on a film.
Yeah, Clarke, my read on X-Men Dark Phoenix, that when I initially saw there were some set photos in Entertainment Weekly, and they did a cover spread, and the stars talking about it, and I'm like, oh, Jennifer Lawrence is still in this thing? And like, oh, this is okay, okay, we're doing this. But the more I read about it and the more I saw some images, I'm like, it seems like this is an X-Men movie that everybody wants to make, that the cast is excited about making. I think a lot of that has to do with the fresh energy that Kinberg is infused into that set. Hans Zimmer being added to it, what does that do to your excitement level about Dark Phoenix?
Well, I think that I've been excited for the movie for a while because I think her story is so interesting, and I think that to add someone like Hans Zimmer, that score has potential to be really fresh and original. Because whether you're talking about Man of Steel or you're talking about some of the other movies that he's done in the superhero world, this is a very female-centric story, and so I think that there's a potential there to have a different kind of music from Hans Zimmer that we haven't heard in a while. So I think that is potentially very exciting.
He did the score for Inception. He did The Dark Knight. And after he did movies like The Dark Knight, the Nolan trilogy, and then he went on to do, like Rocha said, Man of Steel. Then he did Batman v Superman, but he teamed up with Junkie XL to do Batman v Superman. I think he was a little hesitant. He didn't want to repeat too much of what he did with the Nolan trilogy movies. And then he said he was retiring from superhero movies. So he was not retired from scoring movies by any stretch of the imagination. As a matter of fact, he did a great job with Dunkirk and Blade Runner 2049 this year. So Hans Zimmer has been busy, and now he's going to be throwing his hat once again into the superhero genre, and we all the more welcome him back. Hans, Booby, I'm your white knight. We want to remind you guys, this is not the only show on Collider Video. Far from you can subscribe anytime you want, and make sure that you guys check out all of the cool things that we have. We have one more agree or disagree, and I know we're going to get to that in a minute. We don't have mailbag, so I'm going to do the plugs now. That's the way it's going to work. We have a very special screening of Star Wars The Last Jedi is going to be coming up in the Los Angeles area. So if you guys want to attend, you have the option to. You got to send an email, and you got to do it quick. It's going to be a Q&A with Ryan Johnson. Whole lot of exciting stuff on a huge IMAX screen. If you want to go, and you're going to be in the Southern California area on January 31st, send an email to the Collider mailbox at gmail.com, and in the subject line type, I want to see Star Wars The Last Jedi with Ryan Johnson. Include your name, and if you would hope to bring a guest. They're accepting emails until Sunday the 20th. Oh, that's this Sunday. So make sure you guys get that email in. We also have our top 50 superhero recap is now up on the channel. We did the top 50 superheroes of all time, and a lot of things were said, a lot of comments were made, a lot of controversy ensued, and the recap is now up on Collider Video. Later on today is going to be the Movie Trivia Schmodown Awards ceremony from season 4, all of the best, all of the worst, everything in between. It's hosted by some idiot named Mark Ellis, and you guys are going to have a great time watching. It's going to drop this afternoon, so make sure you set your watches accordingly. I want to remind you guys at the end of this show, we're going to save some time for your live Twitter questions. Go ahead and start tweeting us right now at Collider Video and use the hashtag Collider Movie Talk. Like I said, we have one more agree or disagree to get to, and it'll be a fun one. And speaking of Star Wars and the Ryan Johnson Q&A screening we have, let's talk about Episode 9 and a movie it might be going up against, that being fellow juggernaut franchise, Jumanji. That's right, Jumanji 3 is rumored to now want to open against Episode 9, Christmas 2019. This is an interview in the Wall Street Journal. Sony Motion Pictures chief Tom Rothman said that the talk of the third Jumanji movie might want it to be opening Christmas 2019. It would go head-to-head with another Star Wars movie, as J.J. Abrams' Episode 9 has already secured the December 20th, 2019 release date for that year. So, Rocha, you and your 76 friends that have already gotten tickets for Episode 9, how many of them do you think would splinter off and want to go see Jumanji 3 instead of Star Wars?
I think, well, not instead, but I'm certainly they'll maybe go see it the same weekend. I mean, when I was down for the junket, one of the things that was really interesting talking to the people that were there, they were all just like, we just want to come in second on opening weekend. They had no feeling or idea that this was going to blow up as much as it did. And so for me, they were incredibly sweet people over at Sony. So I had a great time down there, and I had nothing but support for this. This is a great idea. Why not? Go toe to toe. Now that you know that you can surpass the box office domestically, you can do what you can do against Last Jedi, then why not? Why not put your stones out there and see what happens and see if you can do that? And it'll launch you into that stratosphere. Nobody saw this Jumanji thing becoming a franchise again, and damn if it didn't. So you've got a great cast, and why not take a chance, see what happens? And we don't know how 9's going to turn out. A lot of people are now coming out of 8 feeling a bit disillusioned with Star Wars. You see it on social media all over the place. So I'm sure they're all going to show up for 9, but are they going to show up at the same level? And if they're not, why don't they go back and see the third installment of a film that made them feel happy and good, like Jumanji 2 did, or Welcome to the Jungle did? So I think this is a gutsy move, and I applaud it, and we'll see what happens.
It's being applauded by Rocha. Clarke, how do you feel about Jumanji 3 saying, hey, Star Wars, I'm your Huckleberry?
I think this is really silly. I don't understand this. I think the way that they rolled out the movies this year was a great example of how I would do it. I think I loved The Last Jedi. I do not share the negative sentiments that a lot of people on the internet do. That said, if I'm Disney PR and I have JJ back, the guy who brought you The Force Awakens, you can easily start communicating to the audience, hey, remember that movie that you guys really loved? Well, he's back, and we're finishing out the trilogy. That's the other thing. The momentum behind the final chapter in this trilogy is going to be way bigger than anything Jumanji is going to be able to do. So I think, I just don't get it. I don't understand what they achieve. I don't understand what Sony achieves by trying to go head-to-head against Disney or against Star Wars, but I mean, I just don't get this.
The big thing to me, Jay, is that Star Wars Episode 9 is opening, for lack of a better term, a week later than The Last Jedi was. Because The Last Jedi opened December 15th.
Right.
Jumanji, so you had an extra week before the big Christmas holiday, actual Christmas Day opening that a lot of movies tend to rely on. So Jumanji opened December 22nd, right? Maybe December 22nd in limited. I think it had a limited run before then. But this is opening the same day as Star Wars The Last Jedi. Because The Last Jedi had $200 million of business done domestically opening weekend when it didn't have to worry about Jumanji. All it had to worry about was Ferdinand. So then, a week later, and just for the record, Jumanji 2 came in second place when it opened. It's not like it beat Star Wars its first weekend opening. Right. And Jumanji just had one of those trajectories where it kept climbing. $36 million its first weekend, 55 the second, okay? 50 the third, 66 the second. A lot of people are seeing movies around the holidays. I think that there's room for 2 blockbusters to open around Christmas, but do you think it's a smart move for Jumanji 3 to want to take on Star Wars head-to-head?
I agree with Clarke. People love the J.J. Abrams Force Awakens. Regardless of the criticism, people were skeptical about Ryan Johnson doing 8. Found out he's coming back to J.J. Abrams coming back to 9. People want to see it. Jumanji is good because its presence was felt because of The Rock and Kevin Hart. Let's just be realistic. Granted, Jack Black showed out in the film, Karen Gillan showed out, but The Rock and Kevin Hart did that.
Yep.
They will not be able to combat a juggernaut like Star Wars. You're going to try to split the box office, or you're just going to bust. Because that's what it is. It's not you're going to top it. You're either going to try to split it or you're going to bust. Plain and simple. And I don't think The Rock and Kevin Hart are a strong enough combination to beat out The Last Jedi. I don't. Granted, it's the holiday weekend and people will go see movies multiple times. I don't think Kevin Hart's presence as an actor and The Rock is something. If you said The Rock was in Star Wars, different ball game.
Oh God, no.
But I'm just saying, different ball game.
Yeah.
If you said Kevin Hart was in Star Wars, no one would ever go see it. But you're saying The Rock and Kevin Hart do Jumanji again. We've already seen what they've done. We don't want to see the same movie again.
But
I do wonder what the trajectory of that is. If people want to see more and more Jumanji movies, or they really love seeing this one and then a sequel, you're not sure what you're going to get. Look, when J.J. Abrams was announced as the Star Wars director way back in 2012 or 2013, whenever his name came up, I think people got really excited. Force Awakens came out, people initially loved it. And then the Ryan Johnson announcement, I don't think that splintered fans when he was announced. I think fans were like, this is going to be, this is our Empire Strikes Back. This is going to be the greatest Star Wars movie.
No, I'm talking about after the release. After the
release,
yeah, I'm talking about after the
fans
release.
became splintered. And then it seemed like that there was more of a sentiment that they wanted JJ back than it was when he was announced to be coming back for Episode 9.
Yeah, but JJ's not going to get you. A lot of people already pushed back against this JJ announcement. So I don't think it's as, like people are like, oh, yes, it's JJ. No, people are more like JJ again, because there's a lot of pushback to Force Awakens that were just tracing over New Hope. A lot of people were upset about that. And the Ryan Johnson thing, it was supposed to work out. He's attached to the trilogy. So and if you start going like, well, no, remember JJ's here now, you're essentially crapping on Last Jedi. And so it shows a inconsistent promotion. And so I think that's the danger when you do it. I mean, I get your point, Clarke, but I also think that it could be dangerous to go that route, because you could be saying, well, never mind about this film. This is the one you need to be focusing on. JJ's back. Remember Force Awakens, blah, blah, blah. And then you go, well, what's the consistency here? So I think there's a lot of people who are upset that one person didn't navigate this thing to the end, and they think it's uneven tone, uneven stuff. And I like Last Jedi, but it still has a very strong footprint with people that are negative about it. I mean, Jedi Council comments yesterday were all about like, I don't want to speculate anymore. I don't care anymore. They clearly don't care about us speculating about this. What's the point? And so that's a growing sentiment. So I think people are going to be hesitant until it comes out. And if Solo bombs, even more so.
Look, I encourage you to speculate if you can handle the outcome. That's all I'm saying. This was supposed to be a Jumanji story. It turned into a Star Wars. This was supposed to be an exhibition. My fault. One quick Twitter question, then we will call it a day, and we'll call it a week here at Collider. This is a fun one, and it comes from big fan Christopher Woodburn. Says, what was a reboot or remake that you originally did not want, but you ended up enjoying? For him, it was the Power Rangers movie from last year. I'll agree with you, Chris. I think the Power Rangers movie was a very fun reboot, and this is coming from a guy who did not care about Power Rangers at all when I was a kid. I was on the Ninja Turtles train full bore. I even got a little Battletoads. Once Power Rangers came out, I'm like, I think I'm going to go outside and pick up a basketball. I was a huge Krispy Kreme fan, so I did like that aspect of Power Rangers, but I also thought it was a fun action movie. Another remake / reboot that I really enjoyed was made by a young man named Craig Brewer, who also did Hustle and Flow, and he's directed a lot of great TV since then, and it was the Footloose remake. I walked into Footloose being like, oh, God, what is this going to be? I thought it was delightful. Clarke Wolfe, you?
Yes.
Remakes.
I'm going to say Planet of the Apes.
That's a good one.
That first Planet of the Apes movie blew my mind how good it was, and how fresh it was, and how exciting it was, and how great the technology was. And each film after that in that trilogy just, I mean, it's that one shocked me at how great it was. And then, you just said Cinderella. Kenneth Branagh's Cinderella. I just talked about this on the podcast with Hector Navarro, but I drove to that screening like, this is so stupid. I don't want to see this stupid movie with this stupid. Why am I was so mad. I was so mad. And I absolutely loved it. I thought it was excellent. I think it's the best live action adaptation they've done since they've started doing these. And I love the changes they made to the story while keeping it still the central blueprint. I loved it.
Clarke, you totally Crocodile Dundee'd me there. I came to this party with the Footloose remake, and you went, that's not a nice right? This is a knife. She went Planet of the Apes and Cinderella. Oh my gosh, talk about not being equipped for the job. John Rocha, you have any remakes or reboots that could top Clarke Wolfe as far as you're surprised how much you enjoyed it?
No, I think that's a great choice. I don't think I can beat it, but I can come close maybe with Mad Max Fury Road.
Oh, totally.
I was like, I love Road Warrior. Thunderdome was kind of half and half. So, and you're bringing back the guy 30 years later, the same dude. I don't know. And people had like crapped on his Justice League script, George Miller. He'd done Babe, and you're just like, really? Do you think you're? Because I mean, a lot of times when directors get older, they can't recapture that magic of their grittier younger years. And damn, if he didn't, Mad Max Fury Road was incredible in any version that you've seen it in. So that's one. And I would definitely throw Spider-Man Homecoming in there. I was like, we don't need it. My God, Garfield just, we don't need it. I don't need Jamie Foxx and that electro crap. Like, I was done with it. And then they, like Clark said, they showed him in Civil War, and you're just like, holy crap, this is incredible. So I think those two are my top, but definitely Planet of the Apes. That was I'm not the biggest fan of the original series other than the first movie. So to see the way they did it, phenomenal.
All right, Jay Washington, you've had a great week on Movie Talk. Do you want to ruin it all by saying the Point Break remake?
No pressure, right? No pressure at all. I agree with Spider-Man because after Amazing Spider-Man 2 and Jamie Foxx started out with a gap in his teeth, then he fell into a vat of electric eels, all of a sudden his teeth were straight. Nobody ever explained that.
I didn't realize that there was a lot of dentistry going into
Nobody
that.
explained that. Planet of the Apes was amazing. For me, Shaft. Because I didn't know what to expect.
That's a great point.
The original Richard Roundtree with the score by Isaac Hayes, all that, it was legendary. Then you're like, all right, they're going to do it with Samuel L. Jackson. And I was kind of skeptical because we weren't all on the Samuel L. Jackson high that we're on now. And then you're like, Christian Bale, Jeffrey Wright, Busta Rhymes? You're like, what? Wait a minute. Why is this happening? Vanessa Williams, you start seeing this cast, you're like, all right. Then you watch it, you're like, yo, Christian Bale is amazing. Samuel L. Jackson is phenomenal. Richard Roundtree is in it. You know, I was like, I'm here for it. And the next one was Godzilla. After we saw, I was like, yo, we don't need to do this anymore. Yeah. After the Matthew Broderick one, I was like, we don't need to do this anymore. But then I saw the new one. I was like, oh, let's keep going with this. Let's keep going.
Kong Skull
Island.
Yep. Yeah.
Like, let's keep going with this. These were movies that you were like, come on, we didn't did it already. Because once they do a remake, you're like, we don't need to do this again.
We could throw in Ocean's 11 too.
Oh,
like,
totally.
Yeah, we could throw in Ocean's. Yeah,
that Sinatra film is not great, and Clooney and Soderbergh and that whole crew really brought the magic and the joy and the fun of that back.
Okay, kids, I asked for one.
No,
I'll
sorry,
never say.
sorry.
And by the way, I'll never say Ninja Turtles because those noses scared the hell out of me.
Okay.
No, I mean, I thought Ninja Turtles had a lot of potential. Nothing's going to take away the greatness of the first two Ninja Turtles.
Yes, it is, except for the third, Turtles in Time.
Turtles in Time. They did bring back Casey Jones, so that was kind of
right?
cool. Yeah, what are you going to do? Thank you guys for tuning into this week's Collider Movie Talk. I want to thank everybody behind the scenes working so hard. Our crew, Ray Ora doing the graphics, Adam Smith, Cody Hall, Mark Riley getting all the show notes and making me look smart up here, as well as our incredible cast, John Rocha, Clarke Wolfe, and Jay Washington. Thank you guys for tuning in, and in the words of a great remake, it is my duty to get with that booty. Hey everybody, Mark Ellis here. Thanks for watching this episode of Collider Movie Talk. You want to watch more? Then click up here, or you can click right here for more great content from Collider. And if you haven't subscribed to Collider Video, do so right now and share this vid with your friends. Thanks for watching.